In this video, I'm going to teach you street survival defensive riding techniques. And we're going to be talking about three specific things. Number one, situational awareness. Number two, lane positioning and maximum visibility. And number three, predicting driving behavior. Now that in itself is really difficult to do, but I got a couple of techniques that may help you out. Most riders, when they're riding, mostly focus on what's in front of them. But real awareness means you have to constantly scan 360 degrees. Wherever you put your bike, whether it's on the left side, the middle, or the right side, has different consequences. And that's something we're going to be talking about as well once we get on the road. And then finally, predicting driver behavior. If a car can pull out in front of you, just assume that it will. You always got to watch out for signs with drivers. That's why you always have to be in the moment, not distracted. I know riders these days have their cardos and they're pumping out music, and you can see it with their body movements. They're having fun with their bike. I mean, I'm not saying not to have fun, but it takes away from being in the moment. You're literally invisible. No one sees you on the road. You think you might have a green bike like I do. It sounds great, that everybody's going to see you and hear you. That's far from the truth. No one sees me, no one hears me either, because these days everyone is sitting inside of a cocoon space full of music and lavish options within their front console, and they're constantly twiddling away at all the different menus, and they can care less about you or me. Doesn't matter what color bike you got, doesn't matter how loud your exhaust is, no one can see you, no one can hear you. So assume that no one can, and therefore you have to start riding defensively and making sure that people see you as opposed to assuming that they see you. And therefore defensive riders don't just react, they predict and adjust before the problems actually happen. But anyway, I talk a lot about this in my motorcycle mastery course. The motorcycle mastery course drops in March, and there are several subjects inside of it about street survival, and we talk extensively about it. But in the meantime, there's a link down below for the guide. Make sure to go ahead and download it. Anyway, let's go ahead and take off and talk about the rest of this. And I'll be able to demonstrate for you instead of just talking theory. So in the last couple of videos, we've been talking about traffic survival and survival statistics and all that other stuff. And hopefully in this video, you get some actionable advice to take on the road. There's a big chance that a car is going to pull out. So I'm going to position myself dead center, and I'm looking left and right. See, you can usually tell who's going to pull out by just looking at their rear lights. If their rear lights are on, then that means that at any moment they can come out. So always paying attention to other cars, always making sure that you're in the moment. As I mentioned before, a lot of people have cardos or some kind of a device plugged into their helmets, and I do as well. And then other people have their phones with quad locks placed right in the middle over here. You see, the difference between riding a motorcycle and riding a car is that when you're in a motorcycle, you ride for freedom. And you ride because you want to get away from all that stuff. But the phone in front of you, the music pumping through your ears, takes you away from why you started riding in the first place. So my recommendation is to not ride with music, number one. And number two, if you have your device, your phone, or whatever it might be, like right over here, try to remove it and see if you can ride mostly in the moment and pay attention to every little single nuance of the road. Take a look at people's faces as they're passing by, because if you get into the habit of looking at people, right, it starts to become a habit. Now, you don't have to worry about other people thinking that you're creepy and stuff, or maybe you're staring at them. They're only passing by. Guarantee you these people will never see you again, and you will never see them again. But the habit of being situationally aware is all I'm trying to drill over here. Because if the person pulled up behind you and you don't know that they're there, and then you look in your mirror and you're like, oh, okay, I got 3 people behind me, you are already too late, my friend. When you're stopping at a red light like this, number one eyeball's got to be in the front. Another eyeball's got to be over there. Another eyeball's got to be over here. Now, of course, you can't do that. That's totally impossible. But with situational awareness, you can develop the habit of making sure that your attention is all over, meaning that you're looking at every single little detail of the road. Right now, while I'm driving, I got a car behind me, I got this guy in front of me here, I got 2 cars coming here, and the lane, which is going to merge in with this one, just became 1 lane. Now it's just me and this car. While I'm driving behind this guy, I'm going to give him a good 3 car lengths, because no matter how fast or how slow you're going, if you're not paying attention, or you're looking this way for that matter, or this way, or maybe down, which is not something I recommend, wherever you look, that's where you usually end up. So focus on the road, and once in a while, glancing in your rear view mirrors to see who's behind you. I would probably recommend glancing in your rear mirror probably every 30 seconds. I think that's a pretty healthy amount of number of times to look in your rear view mirror every 30 seconds. I mean, you're only going to be doing it for a split second anyway, so it doesn't really matter. While I'm riding, I'm also enjoying the nature. I'm also enjoying the surroundings. And the great thing about being situationally aware is that you're in the moment, and as a result of being in the moment, you enjoy this a lot more. You enjoy the freedom and everything that comes with it. The amount of stress that you have is also reduced because you're in the moment. You're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about what happened yesterday or the day before yesterday. All you're doing is you're just focusing on things that are happening to you as they present themselves. Cars on the other lane going. No one behind me, as I can see here. There's only one car in front of me. I'm going to position myself over here because these cars at any moment can come out. These are the type of things that if you're not situationally aware and you're not prepared for, it can catch you by surprise, and that's how a lot of different accidents happen on the road. As far as positioning yourself in the lane, if you watch my videos, I am always on this side here. I'm not in the center. Sometimes I am, but not always. If I notice that there's nobody behind me, I may go in the center, but the safest area for me is on the right side of the lane. Therefore, if it's really, really busy with traffic, and sometimes in this area it is, then it allows me to have an escape plan like that. Now, if I'm on the right lane, which I don't suggest that you be in, simply because there's cars on the right side, at any moment, somebody drunk could be coming from this restaurant over here, get in their car, not look behind them, and because you are in a motorcycle, you are invisible and they don't see you, they can back out and they can smash into you. Now, another thing, I don't know if you noticed that, but I positioned myself right over here because it can allow me to escape in case there's a fast car coming behind me. Now, you can't really see where I'm looking, but I also, while I stopped, I also looked behind me to see if there's any cars coming in really hot. And if there were any cars coming really hot, I positioned myself in a way where I can easily exit out. I'm not exactly sure where you live, but here in California, we have something called lane splitting, and lane splitting is something that's allowed. But unfortunately, I can't lane split because it's too narrow. What I did do is I positioned myself about a good car length away from the car in front of me, and my wheel was turned a little bit this way, just in case somebody comes hot behind me. I can simply exit in between, and even if my mirrors smash in between these two cars, at least I got away and I didn't become someone's hood ornament, if you know what I'm talking about. These days, every single person is distracted. They're thinking about the past, they're using their devices, they might be thinking about a problem they might be having, they're distracted, they're upset, maybe because of the economy, maybe because they lost a job, who knows, whatever it might be. So those are some emotional things that people might be going through, especially in this day and age. And then the other thing is that they're distracted by all the devices and all the computers, because all cars are computerized these days. And then if not that alone, then they have their phones, which they're constantly on in between traffic lights and while they're driving. Driving in the straight road here, there's really not that many intersections, except for like places like this right here, where you're making a left turn. And usually people get bored. And because they get bored, they get on their phones and, you know, swiping away at Instagram and TikTok and all that other stuff. You got to watch out for these kind of people, and this is where predicting other drivers and what they're going to do becomes really, really critical. So if you're situationally aware, then you can see what drivers are going to do. Now, some drivers, they're not going to signal if they're going to be turning right. Now, you might think that it's okay to just go in this lane, but right over here, I'm going to go all the way to the right just in case he decides to come out. So I'm going to stay on my right side just in case any of these cars come out and try to merge in to this lane. And for me, right now, this is the best location, and I came a little too close to this guy. Normally, I'd like to be about a car length away from other drivers, simply because if I have to escape, then I don't have to twist my wheel and make some kind of an uncomfortable move. I can simply just dart out of there, and this would be like my escape route right over here. But normally, a lot of people, they would position their car even closer than I am to the guy in front of me, and they would be right in the middle. Imagine if a car comes really hot behind you and makes you this guy's hood ornament. You wouldn't survive that accident. So as part of your situational awareness, as part of your lane positioning, and as far as reading other drivers and what they're doing, you got your mirrors constantly scanning. You got to be doing that at all times. When I'm in a position like this, I never ever relax. The only time I really relax is if the car in front of me is not moving and there's somebody behind me and they're pretty much stationary. At that point, I kind of relax, but until someone is on my 6, I don't really relax, because at any moment, like I said, a drunk driver or somebody who's on their device or completely distracted could like literally come and smash right behind me. In a situation like this, there's only one lane, and the lane on my right is a bicycle lane. I'm going to be riding mostly on the right hand side. This is the safest area in the entire lane. As I mentioned before, you have 3 choices. You can be on the far left, which is something I don't recommend. There's no escape routes. They may come like this left turn over here. This isn't exactly an escape route. An escape route is something like this, which is pretty clear, and there's no obstructions, meaning that there's no sidewalks or anything like that. It's a street, but it's reserved for cyclists, and at the moment there's no cyclists, so it's pretty safe. And of course, if you feel like your life is threatened, of course you can enter it, and if you get a ticket, I mean, so be it. At least your life is saved, right? At least somebody didn't plow behind you. So in a situation like this, it makes sense to ride on the right side of the lane. It's probably best that you give the guy in front of you a lot of space. Like right now, he's got about 2 car lengths. And the guy behind me, he's giving me space as well. I can see that he's giving me about 2 car lengths as well. And this is exactly where you want to be. Now that the bike lane is out of that section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to position myself on the left-hand side. Not directly in the middle, but on the left-hand side. Anything happens, I got plenty of escape road over here. I can just go into this parking lot, or simply just get out of the lane. These little cone things, whatever they are, it's plastic, so it doesn't really matter. Even if I hit them, it won't really matter. Yeah, predicting drivers is tricky. You gotta be a mind reader. But what happens is, after a while, it starts making sense. The trick is to always be in the moment. Now, if you're in the moment and you're pulling up to a red light like I am, keep your eye on your 6. And then once in a while, look in front of you to see if there's any cars in front of you. Look to see who's coming from that lane over there and is going to make a right turn into this lane. It's kind of like watching fish in a fishbowl. You know, some are going left, some are going right. It's very therapeutic. Use these moments as a time for therapy, I guess, if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, it's you know, being in the moment is actually very, very therapeutic. And I think this is why I really, really enjoy riding motorcycles. It's a lot more fun because you're not thinking about the past. You're not thinking about your problems.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Anyway guys, this is just a preview of what's to come. In Motorcycle Mastery, there's an entire module dedicated to street survival and riding defensively. So if you're interested in learning more, there's a link down below for the Motorcycle Mastery Guide. And I'll let you guys know as soon as the course is launched, which will be sometime in March. And until then, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.